Welcome to It's a Grand Life. Did you know that in the United States alone, 2.4 million kids are being raised by their grandparents or other family members other than mom or dad? 2.4 million. It's a Grand Life is a podcast for those grandparents and kinship caregivers who are committed to making a difference for those kids. Grand families are in every neighborhood, every city, tribe, and territory nationwide. If this is you or someone you love, this podcast is for you. Our goal is to offer hope and resources to help you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us wherever you get your audio podcasts and leave a review. Every new subscriber and review helps us reach others that need assistance. Welcome to another episode of It's a Grand Life. Hello, my name is Craig Nash, and I'd like to welcome you to another It's a Grand Life. You'll notice in the studio today, it's just me. We normally have an interesting and fascinating guest on the program to add a little bit of background and give you some insight into how to handle adoption or the guardianship process or what's happening in Congress and regarding grand families. But today it's just me. And I want to share a little real world story with you. And so the title of today's podcast is Surviving the Lion's Den and Living the Grand Life. Now, I like Bible stories. The Bible is filled with what I call personal case studies, teaching us how to handle the ups and downs of life. And one of my favorite stories is about Daniel in the lion's den. And in Daniel chapter 6, Daniel is this man from the Old Testament who was a prophet, and he is thrown in the lion's den by the king, King Darius, part of the Medo-Persian Empire at the time. And Daniel, who is a guy who was doing everything right, kind of like you, raising your grand family, or you're providing kinship care. You're trying to do everything right. Well, Daniel was doing everything right, and except he violated one rule. And that was, in those days, you could only pray to the king. And Daniel prayed to his God, and he prayed 3 times a day. However, the work he was doing, he was the head administrator for the king, getting ready to be promoted to the top position. But the king had passed this law that if you're praying to anyone but the king, you're in deep weeds and you're going into the lion's den. So Daniel, this good guy who had 30 years of work just helping the king, is in the deepest of weeds. And because he violated the king's decree, and he's thrown into the lion's den. So up to this time, he's getting promoted one level after the next, but he was guilty of praying, and thus the proverbial lion's den. So I chose this story, and we're not going to actually read the actual text or what have you, but I'm sure some of you have heard of Daniel in the lion's den. But I just felt like I was in the lion's den. Do you ever feel like that? Like you've tried to do everything right, but you're still in the lion's den, and you're trapped, and you can't leave. So I'm thinking about my friends across the country who are kinship caregivers, or they are raising their grandkids in a grand family. I know you've tried to do everything right, and we've talked to you, and we've had many of you on our program. And so you volunteered to raise your grandchild or your relative. You have opened your home. And not only have you opened your home, you've opened your wallet. If I'm getting close to home now, you can just tell me. And you also cleared out your schedule, right? And you now spend time at the elementary, middle, or high school for your grand, and you're happy to do it because you love your grandkids. I know that, and I'm the same way. And you're committed to your grand. I mean, absolutely committed. You would walk through fire for these kids, and God bless you. They're lucky to have you. And but sometimes it doesn't feel real good. Sometimes you're there and you're like, this is not really great. This is not going the way it's supposed to go. And if I'm hitting it home at all, you can say amen. But in fact, let's be honest, some days there's problems and it can be awful. And my friend, if that's your story, as it is my story, you might just be in the lion's den. And now your grand, perhaps, is now a tweener. And you're facing all the hormones, emotions, and outbursts that accompany this stage of development. And on some days, perhaps the lion's den may be preferred as opposed to hang out in the chaos in your family's den. You ever have that? Where it's like, man, this is all I can have plus a pound more. So I was thinking about that, and I said, I want to encourage our listeners and the folks that tune into this podcast, and I want to say, how can we make the necessary adjustments to survive with these daily challenges? Because they're daily and they just don't go away. So, first thing I've got 4 things to share today, and I hope that they're encouraging to you, because you are absolutely an encouragement to me. I love you and I pray for you often. And I hope that you feel comfortable with what we're doing here at It's a Grand Life, and that you join our Facebook group and you provide suggestions for what type of shows that you'd like to have, who you'd like to hear from, because that's why we're here. So the first thing I want to remind our beloved Grand Life family is, remember, you're not alone. There are hundreds and thousands of us going through the same struggles every day. This is not unique. When I first started this, I'll tell you how naive I was. I thought, boy, this is unique. I'm going to come in and help folks, and maybe no one has a story like this. Wrong. Many of you have a very similar story to the one we have. So, but remember, you're not alone, but you do need a community. Now, whether you join our Facebook group or you reach out to the local kinship caregiver group in your state or your county, you can't do this alone. So that the first thing is you got to have a community. And what did Hillary Clinton say? Or maybe that was Maya Angelou. It takes a village, and it's absolutely true. And if you get a community around you, your iron will sharpen iron, and it'll absolutely make such a huge difference. So first thing is you can't do it alone. And the second thing is, we've got to remember what you've already gone through. You and I have been through a lot. And there's been behavioral health issues. Perhaps there's substance abuse issues. There's been legal issues. You are probably more familiar with the legal system than you ever have been in your life. That's part of the process we're going through. And there's a loss of loved ones. Some of you have lost those nearest and dearest to you. And it's been an absolute challenge. So you've already been through a ton of challenges, but remember, you're still standing. You're still getting up to fight every day on behalf of your grands. So you're still persevering. In fact, in some days, if you're honest, and I know many of you out there, you are the one encouraging your friends to keep the faith. So you can't quit now. So we got to remember that we can't do it alone. And remember what we've been through. And in fact, there are times where we encourage others that need a word of encouragement. And I know you do that for me. And I hope you know that. I'm so thankful for all of you. So the third thing is, in the midst of the battle, you got to remember that you are strong. But you're not strong enough to carry these burdens day in and day out by yourself. And you've got to give the stress, the frets, and the fears to God, to your Creator, to your higher power. I mean, God is who I go to. I'm not saying I'm right for you. I'm just saying that this works phenomenally for me. When I feel like I am trapped and in the lion's den, that's what I do. But you've got to find someone to give these stresses, frets, and worry and fears to. So Daniel, in Daniel chapter 6, we're talking about him. He got in hot water because he was praying. But his prayers set him free from the lion's den. So remember, you do not have to come to church with me or to pray to the God that I pray to, but you've got to unload these burdens. and you cannot walk around with them. And they just mount one after the other. So I just want to encourage you. There was a writer of the letter to the Philippians. His name was Paul. And Paul wrote, and Philippi is a town in Macedonia, but Paul wrote this, one of these verses to this group, and I think it's really apropos for us trying to raise a grand family. He said, "Be anxious for nothing, worry about nothing, but all things by prayer and repetitive prayer or petition. Present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." Well, I had some training last year on DEI through the Generations United group, and in one of the videos, there was a Native American young man, and what he said was really profound. Excuse me. He said, "I talked to my Creator, and I asked him to help me to leave a better legacy than what was given to me." And I thought, if we could, as a group, live by that, that we want to leave a better legacy than the one we inherited, what a great world this would be. So, unburdening your stress is not only as old as the Bible, but very, very practical. And I have learned to take time meditating and praying, and I've been learning a lot about dealing with finding out what my identity is, and how to get to a place in my imagination during the prayer time where I can unload these burdens and unload the stress, and for me, I unload it to Jesus. You may unload it to a higher power, to love, to truth, to peace. But you can't carry it around, my friend. It's killing you. Can't do it. So unburdening the stress is the key. So I find that I go to, in my imagination, to a happy place, and I'm able to take these cares and concerns and give them to God, and I get real peace. And then say, where do we go from here? So you're not alone, and you are strong. You are someone who is persevering. And we've got to offload these cares, these stresses, these frets, these fears. And finally, there's a big one. You've got to forgive. And never forget to be quick to forgive. I remember talking to one of my loved ones, and he had just gone through a divorce. And I said, you cannot carry that divorce around with you. I said, you've got to forgive your ex-wife. In fact, you need to start praying for her. Now, this dear family friend thought I needed psychotherapy when I shared that. But it's so important to forgive. And I read, not to forgive is like drinking poison and hoping that your enemy gets sick. You're the one taking the poison. And, when people asked Rabbi Jesus how many times they had to forgive folks that hurt them, they said, "Are we supposed to do it 6 times?" Because in the rabbinical law, they said 6. They said, "Are we supposed to do it 7 times?" And in the rabbinical law, it was 6 times. But Jesus said, no, 70 times 7. And that was a Hebrew idiom for infinity. Always be forgiving. Walking around and carrying these burdens is not good for us. So we need to offload it. So in review, you are not alone, my friends. We're here with you. If nothing else, join our It's a Grand Life Facebook group. Get connected. And you are an incredible person of perseverance. What you have been through, what your family has been through, is amazing. And we applaud you. And we're with you going through this. And some days are amazing. Other days, it's like, Lord have mercy. And you're in the lion's den. So you want to persevere with all you've been through. You're still standing. I want to encourage you. You've got to release the stress, the frets, and the fears that hold you down. You need to develop a daily prayer or meditation time. And I told you what works for me. I'm not saying that might work for you, but you need to find something where you can offload that. And finally, you've got to forgive anyone who has harmed you. And my grandma and my mom used to say, keep short accounts with God or whoever is your higher power. Forgive early and forgive often. And pray for those who have hurt you. And I know this sounds crazy, but it's crazy until you try it, because it absolutely works. So it's time for you and me to get out of the lion's den. Together we can do it. And while you're at it, why not encourage one of your neighbors, your coworkers, or your friends to get out of the lion's den with you? You'll feel great, and you'll be so thankful you did. And just remember, we love you, and we're praying for you here. That's a Grand Life. You are a blessing to us. You are an encouragement to us, and we applaud you for the path you're on. And you are absolutely not alone. And we want to encourage you to reach out and correspond with us as things come up. But if you follow these 4 steps, and this will help you continue on the path to the Grand Life. And hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. And we will see you next time on It's a Grand Life. God bless you. Thank you for joining us today for It's a Grand Life. It's a Grand Life provides vital content, regulatory updates, and subject matter experts that are committed to supporting the 2.4 million kids and their caregivers from every neighborhood, every city, every tribe and territory nationwide. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review. Every new subscriber and review helps us reach others that need assistance. As caregivers, we are united in purpose. We are driven by hope while providing strength for today and hope for tomorrow. We are truly making a difference while living the Grand Life. If you have a suggestion for a future episode, please reach out to us. But we'll see you next time for another It's a Grand Life. Thank you for joining us.